Hey babes, welcome to day 5 of our Cycle Sync Your Business live stream series. This is our final episode. I've had so much fun hanging out with you and sharing all about your cycle all week, and I hope that you've had fun too and that you've learned something. And I'm sure that you're probably starting to realize that all of the cycle awareness stuff isn't necessarily knowledge that you can just learn and absorb and then be like, okay, cool, I know this now. It's more of an embodied practice. And by embodied practice, I mean you have to get into your body in order to tap into your unique energy shifts, your unique hormone cycle, your inner wisdom. And I say the word practice because this is an ongoing practice. It's not something that you're going to master overnight or in 1 month, or, it's something that you have to implement into your self-care routine, into your daily life, and just make it a practice to tune into your body and bring that extra level of awareness to how am I feeling today? What day of my cycle is it? And giving yourself what you need at each stage in each phase. So today we're going to be closing the seasonal loop by talking about your inner winter. And this is your week of your period. So this is the menstrual phase. And so a lot of times I think that we think of our cycle as the week of our period, when in reality your cycle is this endless loop of hormones that's going on for your entire fertile years of your life, unless you're pregnant and then you have a different set of crazy pregnancy hormones that are going on. But usually for the majority of our lives until menopause, it's this endless fluctuation of our hormones. And so what happens, last time we talked about your autumn or your luteal phase, aka the PMS week, when your hormones are starting to peak and then crash a little bit if your egg is not fertilized. And so then what happens is if your egg isn't fertilized, it is just passed out, it's just shed, your body sheds it, and your body also sheds your uterine lining. So it's not going to be the cushy home for the developing embryo. And so it just kind of like sheds out, and that's what actually is the blood and the tissue that comes out of you when you have your period. So if you're on the birth control pill, since you don't ovulate, you don't have a real period. You just have some withdrawal bleeding because you're not giving yourself hormones. So this is why when you're on the pill, you can skip your period by just skipping your placebo pill week and just starting a new pill pack, which is not harmful. I'm not a doctor, but what I've heard is that that's not harmful. It's totally fine. That's one of the benefits of being on the pill. But if you're on the pill and you're on your week of white pills or placebo pills, you might notice this energy shift, because even though your cycle is more stable all month long because you're giving yourself a steady stream, this is when you go through a little hormone withdrawal. And so you may actually experience some of the stuff that I'm going to share today. But again, this is one of those things where you just have to tune into your body and figure out what your personal experience is like. So if you are tracking your cycle based on the phases of the moon, or not your cycle, but if you don't have a cycle and you're using the moon phases, then your period is the same phase as the new moon. So when the sky is completely black, and so the opposite end of the spectrum was when we were talking about summer. So here's my little chart, I got it back. So summer is the peak of your energy. This is when you're ovulating. This is when it's comparable to when the moon is full, just like really, really full energy. And then we go through autumn, your energy turns more inward, and we reach this kind of exhale. So it's like at the bottom of the breath, like breathe out, and it's a pause. It's another pause. So again, just to explain this chart, trying to get in the video, it's like mirror image. This is how your cycle works. It's like pause at the bottom, inward energy. As you breathe in, energy is rising through your spring. You kind of pause at the top where you just feel full, and then you exhale and you have this energetic flow that goes more into your yin inward energy back down to the bottom. So spring and fall, just like in nature, spring and fall, at least for me, energetically feel like more active seasons where I have a ton of energy. And then during the summer and the winter, I'm more calm and chill. and just kind of like static for a little bit before everything shifts again. So during your period, your hormones are at their lowest. So I've heard, I cannot confirm this, but I've heard that this is kind of counterintuitively the time of the month when you're going to feel most like a guy. Because guys don't have these crazy hormone shifts. Their hormones they fluctuate on the daily a little bit, but they're mainly kind of stable. So when you're on your period, you might be physically tired and you might be dealing with just like symptoms of getting on your period, like cramps or bloating maybe. But overall, just energetically, like mentally, you're going to have a lot of mental clarity. And I guess this is what guys experience all month long. It's like bastards, right? It's like calm mental clarity. You're not going to be super emotional. So coming out of your PMS week, and I call it PMS week not because you may or may not have PMS symptoms, but just because it is more of a turbulent emotional week, getting your period might feel like a relief. And the cool thing about being at a low hormone place, your hormones kind of tanking, is that your left and right hemispheres of your brain are going to have greater communication. So your hormones affect your brain chemistry even. And so you're going to be able to tap into your intuition and your right brain creativity. And you're also going to be able to access that left brain of logic and just kind of like understanding the big picture of things. This is super awesome. And this is your superpower when you're on your period, because there's just really no separation between you and your intuition. So your inner critic is probably gone. You are not super emotional. You're not really emotionally as sensitive anymore. You're just more stable. And you're able to see the big picture of things. So I've read and learned that in Native American traditions, the boys would go on vision quests and they would leave the tribe to go on their vision quest. That was the rite of passage. But the girls and the women didn't go on vision quests. And I've heard it's because they really revered the menstrual cycle, and they really considered that women were visionaries when they were on their period. And when you were bleeding, it's like, ooh, it's like the wise woman, it was more, not necessarily a matriarchal society per se, but it was more honored as something that connected us to the bigger creation and creative energy and this like source of really deep inner wisdom. And it sounds really crazy and woo, and you'd be like, oh, that's like the ancient cultures, they're so primitive, whatever. But there's so much wisdom that's been lost, especially over the last 2,000-3,000 years, as patriarchal cultures came and just like, burned everything else and took over and started to teach us the narrative that women were unclean when they were on their period, that women are weak, that we're crazy, that we need to be locked up in mental institutions. Here's another fun fact about female oppression through the ages. So the word hysteria, like, she's in hysterics. Women were put in mental institutions, like locked up, because of hysteria, being hysterical. So the root of that word comes from the same root as hysterectomy, or, our woman parts. And so I don't think I touched on this yesterday when I was talking about the wild woman energies of our autumn phase. This is another part of reclaiming our power as women, is just like owning the fact that we are emotional and turbulent and feel like we're crazy, but we're not crazy. It's our energy, and we can learn how to channel this creativity and this wisdom in a productive way if we honor it and recognize it for what it is. So when you're on your period, this is the week that self-care is number one in your life, especially the first day that you start to bleed. And there's a really cool phase as you're transitioning into your period. And this is once you start to really tune in to your cycle and track it every day and journal your energy every day, you're going to start to notice transitions, like a couple days as you're transitioning between each season, where you just feel a little, maybe a little more turbulent. But the transition between autumn and winter is really cool. And the authors of one of my favorite books, Wild Power, call this the separation, which is the first phase of your period, which is before you actually start bleeding. For me, it's the day before I start bleeding. Sometimes I start spotting a little bit, but it's this energetic shift where my crazy creative energy of my inner autumn all of a sudden goes poof, And I have a day, and this is how I predict exactly when I'm going to start my period. I have a day where my energy just is so calm. I literally feel like I'm walking around in a dream. And notice this, because it might happen to you too. And that is this turning inward, where energetically and emotionally we are just separating from the outside world, and we're pouring our energy back into ourselves so that we can have this shedding of what's no longer the old, what's no longer serving us physically, literally, and also emotionally, and just give ourselves a time to rest and pour into ourselves. And even though all of the tampon commercials will try and convince us that we should just push ourselves and just ignore the fact that we have periods and you can do anything on your period, like, yeah, that's true. Yay, women's empowerment. But at the same time, like, why do we want to push through if we don't have to? If you're on your period, if you can take the first day or the first couple days of your period off, or rest or sleep in, do not do a hard workout. Your uterus is like swollen. So just like, listen to your body, give yourself what you need. If you're having cramps, movement can help kind of shift the cramps. But this is definitely not the time to really push your body, or your body is going to rebel against you and you're going to feel probably worse. But give yourself permission to rest. And if you have resistance around this concept of taking time for yourself, then that is really, really awesome. It's an awesome, like, whenever you feel triggered, or whenever you feel like, oh my God, I can't do that, or whenever like the stories of your brain and your ego and your inner critic start popping up, it's a really good opportunity to dig a little deeper, get a little curious, do some journaling, and dig into why. Like, why do you have these stories that are telling you you can't rest, that you're weak, that you're making excuses, that you're lazy? Where does that come from, and how can you release it, and how can you tap into what you actually need? Because the amazing thing that happens if you allow yourself to slow down, press pause, take a couple of days off. If you have to work, then give yourself a little bit of what you need, and just set some boundaries, say yes to you. Then you're going to create space to be able to tune into your intuition and your inner wisdom, and be able to receive the downloads that you're getting from your higher source power. And I know this sounds a little woo, a little crazy, and some of you are like, yeah, and some of you are like, what? But it's true, because during your period, there is basically no barrier between us and our intuition and this bigger creative wisdom and source energy that we're part of. And so if you can, do yin yoga, do meditation. Women, this is the time where if you struggle with meditation during other times of your month because your brain is like, go, 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 try meditating when you're on your period, because you're going to be more calm, and you're basically going through life as a walking meditation during this time anyway. And so you're going to be more open to that. And if you can rest as much as possible, without guilt, without feeling lazy, without labeling yourself. This is important because we all hear that we need to fill our own cups first, right? We have to put our own oxygen mask on first. Well, what does that freaking look like in our lives? It looks like this. This is when you put the freaking oxygen mask on. This is when you get extra childcare. This is when you get takeout so you don't have to cook. This is when you don't clean the house. This is when you work from the couch if you do have to work, or you unplug from social media in general. And so self-care is key, especially first day of bleeding. If you can take the day off and pour into yourself and rest, then you are going to have so much more energy throughout the rest of your cycle. I've personally gone through this because there have been months when I have had or wanted to push through and just keep working through my winter. But those are the months that I have breakdowns and I burn out, and I just I'm an emotional wreck the rest of the month because I use all my energy that I don't have to give. So it's really supportive to you and your business and everyone, your family, everyone that depends on you. If you can take this time for you, it's going to pay off. So trust that your energy will come back and it will rise again. Your motivation will rise again. During your winter season, you might freak out because you might lack motivation. This is totally fine. It's okay to feel disconnected from your goals, from your business, from your family. That's okay. It's normal. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It doesn't mean that your goals are wrong. It doesn't mean that you're out of alignment. it's just a reminder that you are separating from the world because it's time for you. And just remember how amazing you feel during your summer when you're so outward focused on other people. Well, now is your time to flip it back onto yourself. Erin says, currently on my period and was so off before this week and was getting frustrated. So I started running again and have been killing it. Today it hit me and I'm exhausted. Yeah, just our bodies will tell us what we need. So go to bed early tonight. Maybe take a rest day tomorrow and trust that you're going to have so much energy in probably 2 or 3 days and you can get back to it. But it's really cool. So what to do in your business during your period, how to rock your biz on your period. This is a really cool time for your business because you're having that amazing communication between your left and right brains and you have this bigger picture, more visionary, intuitive connection. This is the perfect time to set goals, to reflect, to review, to tap back into your bigger picture, to what's important, and to do some strategic thinking and planning and visioning for the month ahead, for where you're at. And the cool thing is you can do all the planning here because you will be able to see the bigger picture, but you don't have to take action on it yet. So wait until spring, wait until your energy is back in a few days to take action, and then you'll just be like, yes, I can go. And so this is the time for the more passive inner work. It's also a great time because you're going to feel more separate from your passion and your motivation. It's a really good time to look at your priorities, and because nothing is going to seem important, it's the perfect time to figure out what is actually important and what is worth keeping in your life. So great time for self-care, great time for slowing down, great time for rest days, let your muscles heal if you've been working out, great time for being selfish without guilt, and great time for doing that visionary goal setting or big picture planning and strategic thinking for your business. And this is why it's my favorite season, because I love the big picture stuff. I love rest. I love self-care. Just give it to yourself. You freaking deserve it. So I want to share a few of my favorite books with you if you want to learn more about your cycle and your energy and all of this stuff. This was the book that got me into all of this in the first place, especially if you're thinking about coming off the birth control pill, Woman Code. This is how to balance your hormones, or if you have an irregular cycle, if you have PCOS, this is going to teach you lifestyle and self-care habits and routines and protocols to support your hormones. And it's also going to give you an introduction into cycle awareness, cycle syncing, and what else? Feminine and masculine energy. And there's also an app called the MyFlow app, FLO, that's connected. It's developed by this woman. That's a really great cycle tracking app. It's not a fertility tracking app, so if you're trying to get preggo, recommend something else. But if you're interested in tuning into the phases of your cycle and the foods you should be eating, the workouts you should be doing, all the stuff, what your strengths are at work, what kind of sex you should be having for maximum pleasure, check out the MyFlow, FLO app. So once you've read Woman Code, here is what I think of as like my holy grail for cycle awareness. This is more of an energetic and creative approach to really tuning into the energy of your cycle in each phase. This book will change your life. Just get it, read it. On the other hand, this is more, the Optimized Woman is a more practical side of cycle awareness. This will guide you through day by day, each day of your cycle, and it'll share how to optimize your life, your self-care, your work, your relationships during each day of your cycle. So this was geared more towards women in business and more towards the corporate side of things, whereas this is more like the energetic, spiritual side of things. They both are amazing. And then in general, for tuning into your feminine power, these books are a little more woo, but I highly recommend the book of She. This is really going to help you dig into your conditioning and like your inner critic, your inner patriarch, your inner voice, and just owning the shadow side as well as the light side of your being. And then finally, I'm currently reading Pussy, A Reclamation. This is the second time I've read it. I'm reading it with my virtual book club. Side note, if you want to join my personal development book club, we're just a Facebook group. We read books, we discuss them. Super fun. This obviously, as you can probably tell, is a little more provocative, but it's also a very interesting read. So those are some of my favorite books. And if you enroll in my Wild Synchronicity 12-week program, I am going to send you 3 books of your choice as part of your course materials so that you can continue to learn more, which I think is really fun because who doesn't love books? So that's kind of a fun bonus of the program. And then finally, just a reminder that Wild Synchronicity is open. This is the first time I'm running a program like this live. I did a beta round this summer and the women absolutely loved it. I've shared some of their testimonials on my website. I put the link in the description of this video, but it's annamarialach.com/wild-synchronicity. But this is going to be a transformative, immersive journey. If you really want to put all of this into practice in a supportive accountability space and with some extra guidance from me, as well as from the other women, we guide each other. It's kind of like a mastermind, a sisterhood. And we are going to go on a 12-week journey, and I'm going to teach you how to journal your cycle, how to track your cycle, how to tune into your energy, how to see these shifts in your own life. And everything we talked about in this video series, we're going to dive even deeper and implement it and integrate it into your life so that you can feel and experience these shifts too. We're also going to do a business workshop towards the end and put it all into your business plan so you can apply it to your life and your business. And it's going to be so much fun. So the doors are open until September 21st. So for another week, if you're watching this on Friday. And I'm not sure when I'm going to do this live again. This is going to be maybe a once a year thing. So if you're curious about this, please, please, please reach out to me so we can chat about it. I would love to invite you in. I have space for 5 more women. So I'm calling in 5 women that are ready to really dive deep into this work and help start this movement of feminine business, of leveraging the hustle and the creativity and the authenticity and the rest, and really owning our power. And if you enroll by Sunday, I will bonus you a one-on-one intensive 90-minute life coaching session with me, which is also gonna be really fun. So message me if you're interested and let me know your takeaways from this video series. I'd love to hear what you learned, if you had any aha moments, if this is blowing your mind, if you're super confused, wherever you're at, I'd love to chat. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk with you soon. Bye.